Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Evidence, the podcast where we dive deep into true crime cases, uncovering the facts and exploring the unanswered questions that keep us coming back for more. I'm your host, Marv, and I want to thank you for joining me today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can find links to my PayPal and Cash App in the description. Now, let's get into today's topic.
Breaking all the patterns, facts and theory, clues and controversy. Join the journey, uncovering the mystery. This is Beyond the Evidence, where justice prevails, with Marv leading the way. Truth never fails. Now get ready for this live stream. Super chat, highlight your message. Don't fall victim to the irrelevance. Hit that like, share, subscribe to Marv's Beyond the Evidence.
Hi, everyone. How are you? I know I've been MIA lately, but I am back. All I can say is working in this field of work that we do, true crime, it can get to you and you don't even realize it right away until some depression hits. And so I've been taking care of that. And I am in Kokomo, Indiana. I decided that I was coming here to bring Karina's voice to all of you, and I'm so glad that I did. I am attending the Flint Farmer trial. It's very important to me that she gets the attention that she deserves. She was a beautiful girl, had some issues, but did not deserve to have her life taken. So with that being said, I just want to say hello to everybody. Evil Alaska says, can't wait for this live. Elonda, thank you so much for becoming a new member. We are going to start up memberships again. Cyber Warrior, nice to see ya. Jill, how are you? Hi, Yolanda. I'll be Frank. Glad you're here. Let's see. We've got Troublemakers. Hi, Marv, me, and Joni. We're in court with you today. So nice to see you. I've met so many great people, along with Karina's family, and so glad to see you here. Kiwi, nice to see ya. Gloria, hey girl, glad you were there. Yep, I will be there all week. Phil says thanks for going. You're welcome. Very welcome. Shauna says hi, Marv. All right, I think I got all the comments. Oh, Ben, okay, sorry about that. Been a member almost a year. Hi, Crystal. How are you? We're going to have people coming in as we go, and that's great. We actually have a very special treat for you tonight. Anthony has been working very hard on this. And Jerry, love you. Absolutely love you. This is Karina's grandma, as all of you know. Anthony has put together a very special video. It's about 20 minutes long, but it's going to outline Karina's life and the case. And then as soon as that is over, we are going to jump into my notes. I can tell you that I have probably almost between 20 to 30 pages of notes from today's trial. And I'm going to share that with all of you because it's important that we get Karina's story out there. Crystal says, I'm doing okay. Just wanted to say thank you for attending this trial. Karina is my cousin. Rest in peace. Riri, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me bring Greeno on here real quick. Say hi. And then we're going to play this video. There he is.
What's up, YouTube? How y'all doing today? How you doing, Marv?
I'm tired.
Tired? I bet you are. You know what? Going to these trials and stuff like that is very, very, very exhausting because you got to be up early. You're up late the night before and you're trying to get everything done. And it's just like,
yeah,
it's mentally exhausting. You know what I mean?
It is. It is. But I'm so glad that we're doing this because I don't see any other reporters there for Karina. And
I wondered if there was going to be anybody there.
As you and I discussed, this is how this case has gone. She gets forgotten, and I'm not forgetting her, and we're not forgetting her.
Exactly.
So, let's kick off this video. Like I said, it's about 20 minutes long, and then we're going to go right into what happened in court today because there was a lot of information given.
And so, yeah. So if you guys don't know, Karena McClerkin is from Kokomo, Indiana, and her suspected killer is also from Kokomo in the same area, and this family has encountered him several times throughout the last 9 years of this case. And so we worked really hard on this. I worked really hard on putting this together, and Marv was in court today. I was there yesterday, and this is kind of what we've came up with in order to tell the story of Karina. And nobody can really tell it better than Jerry and Andrea, but we do our best. So you ready to play it?
Ready.
All right, here you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the disappearance, search, and murder of Karena McClerkin.
Located in the heart of Indiana is a city called Kokomo, a place that many have never even heard of. It's a small city that hosts a population of just under 60,000 people. But although it's a small place, not known to many, it has been dubbed City of the First. The city of Kokomo obtained this nickname by being the first to do a lot of things. Such as in the 1800s, it became one of the pioneers of the automobile manufacturing process. Fast forward to the 1960s, and it was the first to house the first McDiner. Yes, a McDonald's with a diner on the inside. The plan was to serve dinner outside of its normal menu. However, this was a massive failure, and they would ultimately convert those restaurants back to their original state. Sadly, in present day, the city of Kokomo is known for the disappearance of a teenage girl. A disappearance that would rock this city to its very foundation. And when the final pages of the story was written, it would leave more questions than answers.
What's going on, everyone? Wherever you're tuning in from, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, or wherever the truth finds you. Tonight, we walk into the chilling darkness of a nearly decade-long mystery. I'm Anthony Greeno, and this is True Crime Investigates. This is the story of a journey full of silence from police and a demand for answers from a grieving family. This is the disappearance, search, and murder of 18-year-old Karena McClerkin. A suspect has been arrested, her remains finally found. Now Flint Vincent Farmer is on trial for murder. Is he guilty or not? You're going to find out now in this True Crime Network Films exclusive, The Disappearance and Murder of Karena McClerkin.
Part 1. Early life in Kokomo.
Karena McClerkin was born in 1998 in Kokomo, Indiana, raised by her father, James McClerkin, and her grandmother, Jerry McClerkin. Karena's life was wrapped in love. Jerry recalled how they would hold hands, a silent promise at every farewell. Hold tight, Karena would insist. Never let go. That bond would become a symbol and a scar. As a teenager, Karena faced struggles many know too well: substance use, wrong paths. But she made a choice. She began the process to enter rehab in Florida, ready to fight for her future.
It's easy for people to forget that behind every missing person is a fighter. She was reaching for that better tomorrow.
Exactly. She had her whole life ahead of her. But fate had other plans.
Part 2. The night of October 11th.
2016. Excitement in her step. She tells her grandmother,
I'll be all right, Grandma. I'll be all right.
But she wasn't. Surveillance cameras later capture her at a BP gas station. Alone. Vulnerable. Witnesses say they saw her walking down South Washington Street and entering a vehicle.
Right there.
Inside that car was Flint Vincent Farmer.
Right there was the last moment anyone saw Karena alive.
Part 3. The family's search.
Karena's family didn't wait, they acted. Flyers plastered across Kokomo, hundreds of miles searched on foot. Private investigators brought in, balloon releases, vigils. Her birthday celebrated in the park she once laughed in. They refused to let the world forget her.
It's that kind of fight, man. That kind of love. You don't see it every day. Jerry, James, they carried her spirit when no one else would.
You're damn right. Real family never quits.
Part 4. The breakthrough.
Fall of 2021. New information hits Kokomo PD's desk. Luminol testing inside Farmer's garage. Positive. 3 spots of blood. July 18th, 2022. Farmer arrested. July 19th. Skeletal remains found in a rural field in Miami County.
6 years of pain, 6 years of searching. Finally, Karena was coming home.
August 5th, DNA results confirm it's Karena.
Part 5. The fight for justice.
Flint Vincent Farmer's trial is set for April the 29th, 2025. The evidence, surveillance, witnesses, blood, confessions caught on recorded jailhouse calls. And this time, justice isn't walking away.
Because justice matters. It's not just a verdict, it's a voice for Karena.
Conclusion. Final message.
Tonight, we remember Karena McClerkin, a young woman, a fighter, a dreamer. Taken too soon, but never forgotten. To the McClerkin family, we stand beside you.
And to everyone listening, never give up, never quit, never lose hope.
This is Anthony Greeno.
And my name is Marv from Beyond the Evidence, and we are here on scene in Kokomo, Indiana, with a brand new style of trial coverage, where you guessed it.
And this
we go to the
is where
scene
you
of the
can
crimes.
join the investigations.
Anthony Greeno, alongside the producer for Straight Crooked Productions and host of the Wabash Watchdog.
Jimmie Clayton.
This is the Wabash Watchdog. The Wabash Watchdog. We're watching, we see you. The Wabash Watchdog. We're always watching you. You're gonna get more news from the man behind the blog. Right here, right here. You're gonna get your news. Gonna get your news right here on the Wabash Watchdog.
Follow along with us as we do our best to travel to some of the most talked about true crime cases on the planet, providing on-scene analysis, conduct our own investigations, compile our findings, and make an educated conclusion based on evidence that we can uncover ourselves. So, in case you are wondering, the old case closed with CJ Channel, the one briefly named The Pursuit, most recently titled Investigation Unsolved. And all of the 4,000 subscribers. I've completely deleted that channel, and that is for a good reason. A chapter closes, the Delphi case. Another opens.
The Delphi.
This is what I was born to do. And through the heartache and pain, grieving and frustration, sleepless nights, long drives, missed meals, and putting so much into our work, we fall asleep at the desk in our chairs more than the majority of our nights. It's hard, but we are determined to make it. We aren't going to sit around and wait for our time. We are on the hunt to seek the truth behind some of America's most trending true crime cases happening now. Ladies and gentlemen, going through all of that, it's worth every moment of it to watch real justice unfolding before our very eyes, to know the feeling of a weight lifted off your shoulders the moment that guilty verdict is handed down. It's a moment so rich and pure. A wave of mixed emotions overcomes you, makes you so happy you're sad. Only those deeply invested into a case understand and can relate to the feelings it brings. I am proud to be a part of the journey into the unknown. Together, we fight for what's right. For accountability, transparency, truth, and justice. Today we start fresh, right here, to a new and improved in a true crime network film. If you are just joining us today, it is Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. My name is Anthony Greeno. Welcome back to True Crime Investigations.
And broadcasting in a live stream powered by Nick Graziano, hosting today's coverage from the Real Chill Studios near Mount Rushmore in Rapid City, South Dakota. Thank you for joining us today as we bring you the only live on-air coverage on the case against accused murder suspect Flint Vincent Farmer. My name is Marv, and myself and Greeno are in the Howard Superior Court too, sitting side by side with the McClerkin family.
Is what started it all for me. And I've also lost it all. And due to the controversial reputation I've developed and hateful trolls from the internet terrorizing me and my family, a significant change within my soul has taken place the last 3 years. And since the Delphi murders case against Richard Allen, I've not collected any monetary gain from YouTube, and that's because I haven't been making content. The Delphi case is closed. Richard Allen, the bridge guy, has thrown in the towel. Acceptance he has conceded to, and since CJ, otherwise known as Casey Connell, had his own brushes with the law, and has vanished with no real response or reason for turning his back on everyone who stood beside him in hopes that a support system would pull him out of the struggles he endured. Well, CJ has walked away with all of the money earned on that channel since October, and if I'm going to do all the work, I'm certainly not going to enable someone else's addiction and bad habits by funding it with my hard work on content creation. And so, I've deleted that channel with a brand new rebranding and a new look, feel, and raising the bar on true crime case coverage. And we need your help. Myself and my new co-producer, Jimmie Clayton, are packed up, and we are ready to go to cover the cases that you want to see. Boots on the ground as we travel the United States. To join creators, we met in Delphi in October and November 2024. We are dedicated to give you a full year of hard work, sleepless nights, enduring the elements to bring you the content you really want to see. So, this new revamped true crime series is back and is not currently monetized. But that doesn't stop justice now, does it? No way. So if you want to help us help others, by being a voice for the voiceless, and if you want to assist us in helping families find answers they need, we need travel and lodging. We believe that by working together with you, our fan base, we can accomplish anything. So become a contributor to the world of true crime and to the channel. True Crime investigates on Cash App at $cash for Anthony Greeno, or on PayPal at www.paypal.me/Anthony Greeno. Thank you in advance for your support and generosity. You rock the most. So, where do you want us to go? The possibilities are endless. And now, this episode of the trial coverage of Flint Farmer for the disappearance and murder of Karena McClerkin in October 2016 is sponsored by Greeno Productions, Microsoft, OpenAI, and 11 Labs. Editing credits applied to ChatGPT, Suno, StreamYard, and Vado Elements. Adobe Creative Suite, Blackmagic Design, Microsoft 365. All programs we need and use to bring you the quality of content that you deserve. Thanks again for your support and contributions. We couldn't do this without you, so keep on keeping on, Southern Stars.
Nothing to be updated on. You make contact with the family, you say, we're still working on this thing, and it's a mystery why they haven't done that in this case. That it's incumbent upon, if your job...
Presence during jury selection, highlighting the sensitive nature of the proceedings. The investigation has faced numerous challenges within Indiana's judicial system, which maintains stricter limitations on media access compared to other states. While many jurisdictions regularly broadcast court proceedings,
but you need enough.
Murder on the morning, it echoes through the years. The past comes back to haunt me as the truth appears. On the high bridge called the Mana, mystery unwinds. Is justice blind as the past intertwines? Murder on the Mana, murder on the Mana. The story's remembered forever. A community left without answers, just wants to know what went on that sad day when there was murder on the Mana. Each step we take, memories awake. A tragic end, for goodness sake. Voices whisper through the trees in the heartland where shadows cease. We stand on the edge of knowing, with every cold wind blowing. After years of lies and deceit, we seek justice, won't accept defeat. Through the darkness, the truth we fight to bring to light what's hidden from sight. No more secrets, no more fear. The path to justice is finally clear. Murder on the Monon, it echoes through the years. The past comes back to haunt me as the truth appears. On the high bridge called the Monon, mystery unwinds. Is justice blind as the
Alrighty. So that was the video. And now we're going to get into the trial.
I am here. I forgot to unclick my buttons. Apparently, so during that video, I accidentally hit the thing and clicked part of it off. You missed about 1 minute. That was discussing the documents that were dropped yesterday, and I figured that we would just talk about it on here. Since I skipped it, I wasn't going to try to figure out where I went back to.
Yeah, how do we get us back on the screen?
And grabbed, we are on the screen. We're right there on the screen. Can you not see us?
Yeah, I can.
I set us up a custom layout for this.
Okay, I see.
So there you go. So it's good to be here, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Marv is in Howard County, Indiana today. We are here for the murder trial of Flint Farmer, and we're going to be discussing that. But first, Marv, I kind of want to pick your brain on what brought you back to Indiana. Why Karena McClerkin?
Because Karina is often forgotten. And I say often because she's been forgotten throughout this whole, how many years? 6 years? 7
9
years?
for her. 9.
Or 9 years. Okay, 9 years now. You know, I met Jerry through you and the marches that you did, and we had her on the show, and we've talked about Karina's case several times on here. And I just wanted to make sure that somebody was there for her. Media-wise, YouTube-wise, don't care, you know? And I'm glad that I am there because I don't know that anybody else is reporting on this.
I have not seen anybody report on this. I have been looking all day for an update. There's been nothing come out. When I do search her name, I do find that notable companies have covered this.
Yeah.
One of them even put a request for Law and Crime, put a request for a camera in the courtroom.
Along with us. Yep.
Along with us. Yeah. And they were denied. We were denied, but I didn't see anybody from there. I mean, you were there, so you were inside the courtroom today. Was there anybody that you saw representing them or anything? Nobody?
Not for media that I know of or that I've seen in the past. So as far as I know, there were some people there taking notes. They may be with newspapers and stuff and have something coming out later. But as far as to give you the information as to what happened during the trial, I didn't see anybody else there.
Okay. Wow. So when you got here yesterday, what was your thought process before we went over there? Like, what were you thinking it was going to be like?
I kind of figured it was going to be similar to Delphi. I thought there's going to be more people that wanted to sit and listen. It was great to meet you too, Maria. You know, I was very disappointed this morning when I got there. Very disappointed yesterday. The family put it out all over Facebook to come down to the courthouse, even though nobody could go inside for jury selection. We still wanted a presence for Karina there. And we sat outside with the family yesterday, you know, and there was a few that came, but not that many. And I was very disappointed in that because Karina deserves better than that.
She does. And you know what? That's the thing, is a lot of these cases around here in Indiana have been overshadowed by the Delphi murders. And that's it's not the only case in the world. I want everybody to know that. We're moving past all that. So other people need help. When you sit there and you look into the face of Jerry and you look into her eyes and you talk to her, and she can't help but cry when she talks about her, that is the reason that when these cases close, it's time to help someone else.
Right.
Because they need it. And, you know, I've known Jerry I've talked to her since 2017, and I met her in 2018. And I just said I would like to talk about this. and she responded, or actually I didn't get a hold of her. I got Andrea, her friend, got a hold of me.
Yeah.
And I reached out and says, you know what? I want to help any way I can. I don't know what to do, but can I help? And they came out and got me, and we went all over Kokomo looking around. We went to a pond. We went to the suspect's house. We went to a whole bunch of different places. The intersection that you guys seen in the video, the Village Pantry.
Yeah.
I just spent the whole day with them, and we literally just looked for her, and it puts it into a different perspective when you're there, you know, with somebody and you're looking for someone that they can't find and they really want to.
Right. I agree.
I was glad to see her yesterday. Jerry, I hope we surprised you when we showed up, because we didn't.
Yeah, she didn't know we were coming.
We just wanted her to know that we were going to be there to support her, and it wasn't all about the other cases that we talk about, you know. So, oh man, so that brings us into those filings, Marv. So the filings yesterday, we were talking before court, and we heard that they weren't going to be allowing anybody inside for jury selection. And I said, you know, we were like, that's against the law.
Right. But once now an officer came out yesterday and explained it to us. He was very nice, very polite, very helpful, answered a bunch of our questions. And he just said that the courtroom is so small that there's no way that all the potential jurors and public and family would fit in there.
Right.
After being in the courtroom today, I totally agree.
Is it small?
It is small. It is very small. So what we were told is that they actually had to hold jurors outside the courtroom and bring them in by bunches because it's so small.
That is true. That is true, because when I walked up there yesterday to look around, there was every bit of almost 100 people up there just standing in the hallway around that rotunda thing. And there were several different types of people. So the jury ended up getting selected yesterday in full, or did that finish up today? How did that work?
No, so they worked up until 8:30 last night, I believe, to get a jury. And they got a jury. It consists of 9 women and 5 men. There's one African American man on the jury, and there's a pretty good age range, I would say, also on the jury. Now you got to remember that out of those, 2 of those individuals will be alternate jurors.
Right. In case someone else has to leave or something, they're in there sitting in. So in case there's an emergency, someone else can be there.
Right. Right. And so today, you know, we got in there and the judge told us, you know, there's no recording devices allowed, no audio, no, you know, nothing like that. We were able to bring our phones into the courtroom, but they had to be turned off. And he told us that if any phone went off or he saw any phone being manipulated, that you would be held in contempt. So made it very clear. Made it clear that we are not to wear messages expressing opinions on the case. Yesterday, while we were outside, a couple family members were asked to take off their Karina shirts while potential jurors were walking in, and we're not allowed to wear anything like that.
Right. And that's with every court, you know,
Right.
Any court, you can't hold signs where the jury can see it. You cannot influence the jury in any way, shape, or form in these criminal cases because, for example, let's just say that one of the jurors walked by and saw a shirt that we were wearing and it said Flint Farmer is guilty. Okay. Right. And then automatically they just assume in their head, okay, the guy's guilty. I'm going to go in here. He's guilty. That would be a mistrial.
Yeah, and you got to remember, this is very, very important for Karina's case because the jury is not sequestered. So when there's breaks and there's lunches, they get to go wherever they want. So it's important that they don't hear people talking about the case or seeing any of that stuff we don't want a mistrial to happen at all. The family has endured this long enough. They need this trial to be completed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 9 years is a long time. Think about where you were at 9 years ago, people. Where were you 9 years ago? And what have you been doing since? Have you had, this is what they've been doing for 9 years, is looking for a girl that's not been found until tragically 2022, her remains were found.
Yep. And we got more information on that today. So I will tell you that at the front of the room is a long desk, and that's where the judge and his court reporter sits, and the witness boxes. Okay. Then on the right and left hand side, you have, going the length of the room, on the left hand side is the jury box, and on the right hand side is where we're sitting. The public is sitting and the family is sitting. Now, one of the things that is very different in this trial from Delphi is that family members in the Delphi trial had assigned seats. They were allowed so many seats, and the family automatically got those seats. It's not this way in Howard County.
What's it like?
They don't have any seats. They're considered general public.
Whoever comes in, first come, first serve?
Yes.
See, you know what? I mean, that's kind of like, that is a little bothersome, I think, when it comes to these kind of cases. They should have family first, immediate family of the victim and suspect in there, because I remember there was a time over the other trial where someone may not have made it in, and so like someone would have to leave to let them in,
Right.
That's not that fair. They should be first.
It's not. So then, in front of the judges, the long way of the courtroom, in front, you've got the judge in that. Right behind them is another set of tables where the prosecution is on the left-hand side, the defense is on the right-hand side, and then you have another set of tables behind them with admin people and bailiffs and things like that. It's very, very cramped in there.
Wow.
I can tell you there's about 4 good size rows of hard bench that we're sitting on for the public. And everybody that went today got in.
Really?
So, yep.
Well, that's good. But so there wasn't any overflow of people arguing or fighting in lines and stuff like that. That's good.
No, and we made sure that all of the family got in there.
Good.
I would gladly give up my seat if it meant that a family member was not going to get in there to hear this information.
For sure. I mean, that is, I think, key, you know what I mean? And going to these things is making sure that the family gets what they need out of this, because we're just spectators. We're just people that are going to tell the story and tell you what we see and hear while we're there. But really, they're the ones who need this. It's not just a want thing for them or to go cover this case. This case is their life. Exactly. And I'm really happy for Jerry. I'm glad this day came. And that's the first thing I told her yesterday was I'm glad this. She says, "Oh, I'm glad to see you here." I said, "Well, I'm glad to see this day here." Yes. Really, because it's sad. I mean, she was the only female. She was the only African American female from Kokomo that was missing. And it just played out for so long. And there's so many rumors and theories that come out with this. I mean, this is one of the cases that led us to Kokomo, to the police department during that protest in 2021, where we had to go in there and say, "Man, what are you guys doing? Are you not working on these cases like Karena McClerkin, Tanner Barton, Brittany Bell? Are you not working on these? You won't even give anybody a call back." And the police hid from us. Yes, went inside and hid. I mean, who does that, And so from 2021, her remains are found in 2022. I don't know. Jerry's been on them for years about just giving some information, being more transparent, pointing the finger at the right person. Yeah. And, that along with those other events and all the protests she's done and that one event and other events, it had to light a fire under their ass. because
I
they
hope
had
so.
to do something, you know. There are some things that I'm questionable about this case that I think, but we'll get into that as it comes out in trial, because I don't want to say anything that's going to like maybe
No, I agree.
it's like a prejudgment. You know what I mean? Like it's maybe what I thought, but if I hear something, it may change it.
Junior, I'm not sure how long it's going to last. I'll know more on Friday whether I'm pretty sure it's going to go into Monday for sure. I just don't know. I'll get a better idea Friday and Monday how long it's going to last. Let's get into right away. We had a delay today. I don't know what the delay was, if there was some jurors that were late. I know they said they had some difficulty getting Flint Farmer there or something like that. So trial was supposed to start at 8:30 today. It didn't start till almost 20 after 9. The judge did get in there and got started right away. He gave jury instructions. Just going to go over a few of them. The jury can talk about the case as long as they are all together during breaks, lunches, or deliberation. Okay?
Okay.
They are the ones that determine the law and the facts of the case. The state must prove that he is guilty beyond reasonable doubt. They must give, and one thing that was said also in the Delphi trial, and it was said again today, if you have reasonable doubt, you must give the defendant the benefit and find them not guilty. Okay, so that's important. He stated that this was a murder that happened on October 11th, 2016 at 1039 South Washington Street, where Karena McClerkin was murdered. Murder definition: knowingly or intentionally killing Karena.
Is that his only charge?
I believe so. I got to double check on that, but I believe so. The prosecutor's opening wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be, but I do have quite a few pages on it, so we're going to talk about it. I did not try to write down everything that happened and was said in this trial. Okay, everyone? I gave generalizations, and you're going to see that by my notes. So the prosecutor opened. He said, murder is knowingly or intentionally killing Karena. And it's up to the jury to figure that out. Is he guilty of knowingly or intentionally committing this crime? He says there's many different relationships: good, bad, family, friends, and there are rugs involved. He said Karena on October 11th was at her grandmother's, not having a good day. Shannon sees an argument. Now, Shannon is the individual that picked up Karena from her grandmother's. Now, when I say grandmother, you got to remember, Jerry is Karena's grandmother on her dad's side, and Martha is the grandmother on the mother's side. So try to keep that straight. Okay. Martha tells Karena, I'll take you wherever you want to go. Instead, Shannon drives to the library with Karena. They're looking for Karena's boyfriend. Then Karena says can't find him. So Karina says, take me to Uncle Flint's house. This is going to be very important because she refers to him several times as Uncle Flint.
Now, is he biologically related? And that's what people are going to wonder.
No.
Just the nickname.
Just the nickname.
Okay.
So Shannon drove her to his house. Karina goes in. Karina gets out of the car, leaves, comes back out. She gives Shannon a thumbs up, and this signals to Shannon that everything's good and that Shannon can leave. October 11th, 12th, and the 13th goes by, and Karina's mom is worried because Karina always contacts her. He says there's issues with many of the people that are involved. The mother contacts the officer and describes that she hasn't heard from her in 2 days, and the last place that she is known to go was Flint's house. Prosecutor says Flint. Yep. Prosecutor says Flint says she showed up and I didn't let her in.
Why? Why wouldn't he let her in if he lets her in every other time?
Yep. Then he goes on to say October 17th. They get the same statement from Flint Farmer. She showed up, but I didn't let her in. Flint's daughter contacts Karina's mother and is worried about Karina. And says she's in danger. The 19th, Jeff Moore, Brad Wheeler, and Alicia Wheeler, who live in the duplex next to Flint, okay, they had a party at the Wheeler house. It was movies and rugs, and they say at about 11 p.m. Karina showed up. And then he's kind of back and forth in all of this, and it can be confusing. Then he talks about Karina asked to stay at Flint's house, and she goes and she stays there, and Brad and Alicia hear wrestling and loud noises, and they think that it's Flint crushing Xanax pills.
In the room?
Then he goes back
in his bedroom?
In his apartment somewhere. Okay. Then he goes back and he says, oh yeah, he's like, they ordered pizzas for this pizza party. And then he talks about the police. They try to contact Brad. And then he says something about she was too intoxicated. And she goes by Flint's. Okay. He says there's many holes listed in this case on where she was. Then he talks about a Joni on October 11th, sold Xanax at VP. There's a video from 10:05 to 10:24 where it shows Flint and Karina.
Now that's at the gas station, correct?
Yes, that is at that gas station.
All right. Now that's literally, ladies and gentlemen, like half a block away. Okay. So
Yes.
you go to the gas station and you just cross the street and you walk down a couple houses and he's right there. That's where he lives. So
Yep.
keep that in mind.
Now he says the last activity Karina had was at 11:22 p.m. The last place she was seen was leaving VP.
And she was with him.
He didn't say that.
No, but they did see them both.
In the video, they did say they saw them both.
Okay.
And they did say that Karina's boyfriend was the last call she received.
That makes sense.
Yep. Now he mentions that in this case, after Karina goes missing, Flint Farmer calls his sister 30 times.
30 times. Now, why would someone need to call your sister 30 times in a row? Because I don't think I want to talk to my sister that much.
Yeah.
Unless I was calling someone to help me do something.
Yeah, and then he talks about on November 1st, the sister does her interview. And they took the safe that was in the sister's house that belonged to Flint. In the safe, there was items, rugs, etc.
Rugs?
Yeah, I call it rugs so we don't get in trouble with YouTube.
Okay.
But add a D to it and you know what that means.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep.
Illegal substances.
Yeah. Leads are coming in. They're being told that maybe she's in the pond or a sinkhole, but all of these leads end in dead ends. Meaning they've investigated them, researched them, and they don't go anywhere. And there was a lot of them. July 22nd, Brad and Alyssa have issues. Alyssa is arrested. Brad meets with law enforcement and states he has info on a missing girl, but he wants lenience for his wife. He takes law enforcement to Miami County, where the remains of Karina are found.
And now this individual receives immunity, correct?
Yes, he did receive immunity. He stated that he helped Flint move the body. The prosecutor said there's going to be a lot of inconsistencies in the story and that the jury must decide and talk about all of these as a whole, not just look at one piece. Because if you just look at one little piece, it could come across as reasonable doubt. But when you look at the totality of it and everything and take that into consideration, that should remove your reasonable doubt.
That's interesting.
So that's what the prosecutor had to say. The defense, I'm going to tell you right now.
He didn't do it. That's what they're
Yeah. I only have...
It's complicated.
1.5 pages on them.
Because the defense teams, I've learned, unless they're representing you, are no good. No good. I'm telling you.
So, the defense just basically came out with a bang and said, this is not a murder. And it should have never been covered as a murder. That it's a tragic case of illegal substances causing an overdose.
Okay. My response to that right away is, then, Okay. So you know, Mr. Farmer, you know for a fact that she overdosed. Well, why didn't you call the police then and help her?
Exactly. Why did you go hide her body?
Exactly, because you don't do that unless you did something wrong.
Yep. He says there's street rugs. They can be laced. She was 18 years of age. This is the part, you guys, that really, really makes me mad, okay? They're fine. They can smear the victim all they want. Okay? But how dare you say something bad about the man who is accused of ending this girl's life? But they can say whatever they want about her. Okay?
I've never seen anything like this before in my life. And I'm newer to, well, I guess I'm not new. I've been doing it for almost 10 years now, I guess. Wow, that's a long time. I can't believe I've been doing this for 10 years almost. Throughout this whole thing, I have never heard of people supporting the killer other than the person's family. But members of the public who just want to find or follow or say something, they get heavily scrutinized by people like, how dare you say that about this person? They're innocent until proven guilty. And I get that. It's kind of a cliche thing to say, but in reality, if they did it, they did it, you know, and there's no defending that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I had a friend commit the crime of murder here recently, and I don't defend that, you know, that was my friend, but he did wrong, you know, so it's not like I'm going to stick up and be like, he's the best and the victim's the worst, because it's not the case.
Well, listen to what the defense says. This is what I mean by they're allowed to smear the victim all they want. She was 18 years old. She had a bad drug addiction. She was in and out of rehab. Her family were drug addicts. She has a history of running away and going to rehab. Evidence will show that there was an overdose. The pathologist will tell you that the cause of death is undetermined. This is not often how this happens, but in cases like this, where the individual has been buried and it's been years, it's hard to find a cause of death, manner of death.
It is, especially when it's been, like you said, so long, because she's been missing for quite some time.
Right.
You know, they don't have, you know, bruising and stuff like that doesn't last as long. Things like that aren't easy to tell.
And then he says the human identification team will tell you that there was no trauma observed.
Well, 9 years later?
Of course there was no trauma observed, because it was 9 years later and it was bones.
Defense teams are stupid. The theories that they say are stupid, man. Oh, it's not possible it's him.
Yeah. Then he says, he's talking about the Wheelers, and he says both of them were arrested. And he participated. Him and his wife disposed of the body.
Okay.
They observed the body, and it had no injuries.
So how did she die? Okay.
But she did have white foam coming from her mouth.
That's a fact? Or that's a statement?
That's a statement in their opening. Okay. He says the white foam is from an overdose. And people made poor choices and decisions, but that this is not a murder case.
Well, that's going to bring us to another point later on about DNA and things that were found at his house.
Right.
If it's an overdose, how come there's blood drops found at a home? I guess we haven't got to that point yet, but in the initial probable cause, it does state that there was blood found at his home identified as Karina's. So is he responsible for, getting rid of a body after an overdose, or did he murder someone? And if so, how did he murder her?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm wondering. Is my initial thought is strangulation is how I think that she may have been killed. If there's not, if there wasn't a gunshot, if there wasn't any stab, anything like that, I think that it would be strangulation. And that would make sense to the noises that people said they heard of, like the whimpering or whining of a woman, a wrestling.
Yeah.
Sounds to me like he's trying to work her over.
Right.
Now, I don't know if this was in the court today, but about the withdrawals. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yes, that's coming on later.
Okay. Excellent. Because I'm curious about that and how that plays into this.
Yep. So I think we had 6 witnesses today. The first witness was Officer Doug Rensberger from the Kokomo Police. He was a patrolman in 2016. He investigated missing persons and came involved with the Karena McClerkin disappearance. He was dispatched to the mother's address, and the mother had concerns that the daughter had not been seen since October 11th, 2016, and that she had been missing about 2 days. They filled out a missing persons report. He explained what all is on the form, what information they ask for, and filled in all the blanks. Says it gives info, who they were, where they were, what they look like, who they were seen with last, all of that type of information. And Exhibit 1 was published, and it was the missing persons report that he filed. Said that he received info and went to Flint Farmer's address. He had contact, but Flint Farmer told him once again that he did not let her stay. And this officer said he mentioned he wasn't sure about her age, which kind of threw me off.
Yeah, would me too.
He said he had daily follow-ups with Flint. There was a new lead on October 15th. He spoke with Mom, responded to the Garden Inn, and it was believed to be she was believed to be there within the last week.
Now that's where I went.
Yes.
Yesterday. Yes. Okay.
Now there was individuals that were on record staying there that she was friends with. Okay. But they don't know if she actually stayed there.
Okay. Now the Garden Inn is now changed. I think it's changed names. It's no longer the Garden Inn. So if people go looking for these spots, you're not going to find that place anymore.
Right. He said he went to the Super 8. Said she was seen there on the 12th, possibly. Once again, friends had stayed there, but they could not confirm Karina was there. Over the next week, he spoke to multiple people, but all of those people and the information that they gave him were dead ends. He said at the end of October, he met with Aunt Patricia. She gave more information about a lot of people, believed that Karina was at the Super 8, or a H house. Now think of your illicit drugs that starts with H, and you should know what I'm talking about.
I do. a slang term for that would be called slow.
Okay.
Anybody wants to know that.
Now, he said, once again, victim shaming, in my opinion, that he received information that Karina visited and had sex with older men.
Okay, what's that have anything to do with anything? Who cares?
And said that she had several sugar daddies.
Well, I got several sugar mamas. Who cares?
Yeah, it's just a way to victim blame again, and I don't think that should have come in. Just makes me mad.
Yeah, I'm just kidding, by the way.
I know. Then he talks about. Then they talked about Betsy McGuire, and Betsy McGuire told him that there was a body to get rid of. She talked about an overdose and removing the body, but they could not find any reliable information or results from this. And so nothing came of it.
Okay.
So then the defense comes up, and he wants to talk about Betsy right away and what she said about the overdose and exposed H house. And he said, yes, there was an H house that they looked into, and he said, what is an H house? And the detective said, well, it's a location to get drugs, right? Then they were
Slow
talking,
drugs.
right. Then they were talking about Narcan, and he asked him how many times have you used it, and he says more times than he can count. And then
I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay. Then the defense attorney just started talking about drugs that were pressed and mixed, and he said, "Have you seen that?" And he said, "Yes." Have you seen a influx of fentanyl? Yes. Small doses can kill you when it comes to that. And the officer said yes. Then they talked about Marlena Smith, reported H, Xanax, and chems. Said that
I can still hear you.
Said that Karina was taking Lexapro and had migraines, and the officer said yes. Then it says people staying at hotels for drugs, and he said yes, we do have people that do that. But there was no confirmation of dates that she was at the hotel. So the prosecution got back up and got to re-examine. He said, is there any indication or evidence that she overdosed? And the detective said, no, there was no indication at all. And then, no. Not that he could physically see.
Okay.
And he asked if this guy had ever observed her body. He said no. And he says, there's numerous types of overdoses. And he said yes, but he can't confirm. And then he was asked, well, could this be a murder? Do you think it was a murder? And he said he couldn't confirm that it was a murder. His answer was no, that he could not confirm that. So that is the first witness.
Okay. Run through the second witness. I gotta run real quick and go grab something real quick. Okay.
Okay.
I need something for my computer. Be right back.
Witness 2 was John Webster, law enforcement supervisor and investigator. He looked at the Exhibit 1, the missing report. He reviewed and verified missing person report. Okay. Goodness gracious, my writing is awful. And he asked him, why do you go into such detail on these reports? And he said it's to share information and help identify the person. Any information such as medical, mental information, any information is taken, and they gather that information, as much as the info as they can, because not only does it help them try to locate the person, but should something happen, like in this case where a person is no longer with us, they have more information to go on right away. They talked about an October 13th, 2016 report date. And this confused the detective because he could not find, he was able to bring up his supplemental reports with him on the stand. He couldn't find this date. The poor dude was so confused. So they were going back and forth about this date. And then the prosecutor's like, all right, let's just get rid of that. And he asked him, did the report indicate that Karina was last seen with Shannon Young at Flint Farmer's house? And he said yes, and they began their investigation with Flint Farmer. They spoke to Flint, and I said, spoke to Flint at the 1039 South Washington, and I can't read my word. He was familiar with this address,
That's his home. That's his home.
And the area. Right. Just the officer was saying, yes, I knew the area, I know the city, I know the streets, and I was familiar with this address. Exhibit 2A through H was presented. These were all photos of the house, Flint Farmer's house. The garage, the alley, where they would park, the Marathon gas station, which the officer called it the Marathon gas station, but it was the Village Pantry gas station. In front of the residence, the sidewalk going up to the residence, and the residence stairs for the second apartment. And then they had different pictures and angles of this area. State 3 was a map. It's an aerial view of the house and the surroundings and the businesses. So that was key.
Okay.
Talked about Markland in Washington and the Marathon gas station. He said, on this map, will you mark which way is north, south, east, and west? So the officer did that. He said, then will you circle the house of Flint Farmer? So he circled that. And he said, will you circle the Marathon station? The officer circled that. Then they were talking about the alleyway. And he had him draw a line from the alleyway down to the Marathon gas station.
It just cuts right through, right in between these stores. It's like straight there. I got
Yes.
you. I know what you're talking about.
So then basically he testified about that area and where the house is, where the alley is, how you get from the house to these businesses. I didn't take very specific notes on that. I mean, we can look it up and show them, I guess, later on. He did say that he was first contacted on October 17th. That he said he knew Karina, but that she had never been inside his residence. And that she appeared to be on drugs and she was not welcome there.
That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Right.
For a dude who does drugs, you can't come here because you do.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. And then he said that Flint Farmer said that she got a ride from a female and left with that female in the white vehicle.
Now, see, I had when I spoke to Jerry years ago and Andrea, I was under the assumption she was in some sort of a truck and had fallen out of the truck, and they picked her up and put her back in the truck, and then she never went anywhere. So I'm not sure who that story came from, but Jerry could probably clarify it later on.
None of that was talked about.
Yeah, and so like, where did these stories come up from? Are they coming from the suspects and their accomplices, or are they just coming up out of people just making stuff up?
I don't know.
Probably both.
Yeah, probably both. I wouldn't doubt it. Now, he did state that Flint knew the family members, and Karina does H, the type of drug that we were talking about before. On October 17, 2016, this officer did do a walkthrough of the house. She was not there. And Flint reaffirmed that she was high and he turned her away. The detective then tried to reach Shannon Young, the woman that dropped her off, but he couldn't reach her. He received a report from Marlena Smith that led to the investigation. Another report was called in from Kurt Fredrickson, works at the water plants at night, and he said that he saw a female by the library. She was not alone, and it was early evening. October 18th, he finally talked to Shannon Young. And actually he said, no, I didn't talk to her. Captain Galloway talked to her. He talked to Flint Farmer at police station and conducted an interview. Then you have States 4A, which is the interview that was conducted on October 18, 2016. At first, you could see him laughing and joking. He stated that Karina asked if she could stay. He stated she never came inside his house. He said that whatever person said that she went into the house was lying, because Karina had never gone in to the house. He said he knows Karina through her grandmother, Martha. And that Karina's a recovering addict. And they asked him, were you aware that Karina called him Uncle Flint. And the officer said yes. Or has Karina called him Uncle Flint? And he said yes. Sorry, this is Flint Farmer talking. Said she
what?
So the police officer that's talking to him in the interview is trying to state to him that in another interview that was done, Flint said that Karina had gone inside. And Flint said, no, I told him she did not come inside. He said that he just moved in there and he told law enforcement that she came inside. He was standing outside when she got there. He just moved in that weekend. She was in the white vehicle. She hollered at him from the vehicle. And he said that he was not using drugs. Then they questioned this is where they start talking about the money. And they said Flint came across money. It was SSI, which is Social Security, that was directly deposited. And Flint was telling him this, and that he had a safe at his sister's house, that it was not kept at his house, but at his sister's house. He tells him that he doesn't have a lot of money. He doesn't carry a lot of cash, that everything goes into his bank account. Okay. Then he's telling the officer that he knows Marlena, that they do drugs off and on. And once again, that Karina likes the H1. He said that he has not heard. Now, this is Flint talking. He has not heard of any stories of Karina stealing money, because the detective specifically asked him that. And he said no, he had not heard that she had stolen any money. He did say that she wasn't coherent and incapacitated, is what he called it at first. So he didn't let her in. It was not appropriate since he was 50 years old. Then they asked him about child abuse crimes, and he said no. And then they were talking about Shannon in the white vehicle and Karina hollering from the vehicle. He told her that he was leaving and that he just moved, because she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I just moved in. And he says she took off. He said she was wearing a black shirt, a tank top, and her glasses. She looked normal, but she was incoherent. She was high. Never in or by his apartment. And the officer verified with him again, you're saying she didn't come in. She never came in your apartment. And he said, no, she never came in. He said, her family thinks I did something. If I did something, I'd tell you. Where have we heard that before?
Everywhere.
If I did something, I'd tell you. Yeah. He said he didn't, and he wouldn't do anything to Karina. her mom or her grandma, but knows that she did drugs. He thinks it's all drug related. Then they talked about rumors, and that the person that said he was the last one that seen her, was false. And then he stated multiple times that she never got out of that car and went towards his apartment or house. And that the only reason he knew her was by her grandmother. Then they talked about the safe at the sister's house again, that he keeps money locked away. He states that he keeps all of his money in the bank. And the detective just says, that after all of this checking, and all the people that they talked to, they never found Karina. So he then talks about how they went and they recovered the safe.
How they recovered the safe. Now, the safe was recovered when?
The safe was recovered at the sister's house.
Okay.
And
I deleted my channel, by the way, Queen.
There's pictures, and that's showing the house and the spot in the kitchen. And now this is in Flint Farmer's apartment. There is a picture in the kitchen that has a depression of something heavy in the carpet. And state 7 is another photo of this area with the depression, with a table partially covering it or over it. Then there's an aerial look of the house. They did not find the safe at Flint Farmers. So instead, they're at 701 East Compton, and the safe is found in the garage. That must have been his sister's address. There's ATM receipts. There is Social Security letter, lots of receipts, pill bottles. States 8 is a letter from the Social Security office to Flint Farmer. There's receipts from the post office. There's Walmart receipts. There's a sticky note with a phone number. There's 2 Kroger receipts from 10/8. There's a debt withdrawal. There's torn paper with what looked like a combination. The number to the right and a number to the left and whatever. That was in there. There was a Marsh receipt. There was cash transactions. There was a Speedway receipt on October 4th. And then there was other random receipts with dates of October 3rd, October 4th, July 26th, October 11th. One thing that they did find in there was that on October 5th, they found a rental agreement. So he was correct in what he said, is that he just moved into this place. And the rental agreement went from October 5th to November 5th of 2016. Then there was another receipt. It was an $8,000 withdrawal on 10/11. And they said then it looked like that was put back into the bank account. And then there was a $7,000 withdrawal. So he withdrawed money, put it back in, withdrew it again, and this was a large amount of money that had been withdrawn. But he told LE all his money was kept in the bank and that he didn't carry cash. And he did not tell law enforcement what he did with that $7,000. They did ask, but he didn't tell them. Then law enforcement followed up on tips from Facebook, family, other witnesses, friends at that time. And then we went to lunch.
And that's when I ended up calling you.
Yes.
Or you ended up calling me, yeah.
Yes. Okay, I need you to talk to these people for a minute. I've been drinking a lot of water and soda and stuff, and I need to use the ladies' room before we go on with the cross part.
Okay. All right. I'll be right here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am here, and I am going to tell you guys a little bit about what I think for just a moment about this case. Now, I think that some of the things that have happened, although some things could be considered circumstantial. Now, when people say circumstantial evidence is not evidence, circumstantial evidence kind of is evidence, because when you look at a case and you say, okay, well, this person's phone turned off or something like that. Now, I'm not using this case as an example. I'm just using in general. Someone's phone turned off and then all of a sudden a murder was committed and then all these things happened afterwards. Then their phone turned back on. It's safe to say that those circumstances are probably due to the fact that that person did something. So when people say circumstantial evidence is not evidence, when it comes down to the court, the judge sits there and tells the jury, you determine what the law is, which means that if the jury thinks that the law means A and it actually means B, the law now becomes A, which doesn't make sense because you just got these people up there guessing and making their own conclusions, and they may be paying attention sometimes, they may not be, they may be spaced out, they may just forget things. And so it's very, very hard. A lot of people have been convicted on circumstantial evidence, including John Myers out of Bloomington or Brown County, Bloomington, for the death of Jill Berman. Circumstantial evidence, and that happens in more cases than it doesn't. You know, circumstantial evidence can place people at places. There doesn't always have to be DNA. There doesn't always have to be a fingerprint or something like that. Some cases, as we've seen, don't have DNA of suspects. So there may be other circumstances that contribute to that cause these circumstances to actually become evidence.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yolanda, thank you so much for the super sticker. She says, remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe button and enjoy the live.
Enjoy the live. If you guys make super chats, you can do so on Marv's channel. That helps her traveling. I mean, she's coming from Wisconsin to Indiana quite regularly. So, you know, any kind of super chats that go to her to help out with that in the long run. Yeah. So we're greatly appreciative of any kind of donations that come in for those.
Absolutely. All right. So after lunch, the defense does the cross of Webster. He says, you're a retired lead detective, right? Yep. When did you start with missing person cases? He said October 13th started with missing person on this case, the October 13th. Then he puts up Defense A, which is his version of the map of the area. Why he didn't just use the prosecutors, I'll never know. And he says, is 1039 South Washington Street where Flint resided? Officer answered yes. Was the lease new? Officer said yes. Did the Wheelers know him? Yes. So he's stating that the Wheelers knew him before he moved in, and they were a neighbor of theirs. He was a neighbor of theirs. He said, did you know that Flint Farmer had a disability claim and that a lump sum was received? Did you know that Flint Farmer paid child support? The officer's like, yes. And he says, what was the $7,000 for? And he said he had no idea what it was used for. So basically, the defense team was trying to get at the fact that Flint Farmer could have withdrawn all the $7,000 to pay his bills and child support, and that he got this lump sum of money from a disability claim. Okay. Then they moved on to this Joni Hancock. Witnessed a drug exchange with Flint on 10/11 or 10/12. And that, did he take her statement? Now, I want you to know that Mr. Webster, Officer Webster, is coming back to testify. And a lot of this that I'm going to say here, starting with the point I just said, a lot of it doesn't make sense because the defense team is trying to get this officer to talk about things that they want to talk about, but they didn't give him the correct information and reports to review. So there was a lot of an answer of, I don't know, without checking that report. You will have to give me that report so I can look at it and review it to answer your questions. And the defense attorney even kind of joked, yeah, I'll have to give that to you and you can answer that on Monday. So, Exhibit B is this Joni Hancock statement. And he says, is it true that this was taken on 11/1/2016? And he said, yes. And that she's married to Wetzel. And he said, yes. And this is where the questioning got confusing, because he wanted to know what she was investigated for, or what he was investigating for. And this is where the police officer says, I'm not sure. I didn't review those statements. So it got real confusing. And then he says, October 2016. Did you notice anything indicating murder? Meaning, was there any blood? Was there any damage to anything? And the officer said no. He did not notice any blood or any damage to anything. Wanted to know how often he encountered people with overdose and how many used Narcan. The officer said that he encountered this all the time, and that they actually gave police officers Narcan long before it was out to the public so that they would have it, but that it was not available for police officers in 2016. And the defense said, is foaming at the mouth a symptom of an overdose? And the officer said yes. Then he changed subjects, and he wanted to know about Kylie Ann Warner. And he says, you spoke to her 2 times, right? And she was under the influence. And the officer's like, yes, I spoke to her. And the defense team is like, was she under the influence? And he's like, yeah. And how did you know? And he said, due to her physical reaction. She had dilated eyes, slurred speech, and that's how he knew that at one of the times that he was interviewing her that she was high or drunk or something.
I could see that.
Yeah. Then he switched topics so easily. Then he wanted to talk about, did you issue a subpoena for the phone records from AT&T? And he said yes. So then he pulls out Defense C, Exhibit C, and it's from the time period of October 11th to 13th. And these are the phone records, a portion of the phone records. And he was talking about the phone records, and he was talking about the time on the phone records, okay? It's not the time that you and I are familiar with. It is called UTC time. And he says that these phone records were from AT&T, and AT&T stores their information in UTC time. That he had to get a warrant to obtain. Oh, this is him switching subjects again.
Hey, by the way, we also have a guest. Andrea is here. If you wanna bring her on, you can.
Yeah.
I need to go somewhere before it closes at 9.
Okay.
But she's here if you want to talk to her. So, Andrea, thank you for joining, and I'm gonna let you talk to Marv real quick.
Can you put her in your spot?
She's there.
Okay. What's up, Andrea?
Not much. How are you?
Good.
Jerry can't get on. Her phone's not connecting for some reason.
Okay.
Jerry, if you're on there, try to go through Safari. I had to go through Safari. I couldn't get on through Google.
Okay, well, right now I'm just going through my notes on the witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you and Jerry want to come on after that and talk, or I'm not sure what's happening here. Or did you have comments about what I'm saying, or?
I don't know if you've seen James's wife's comment on there. Did you see that?
Whose comment?
James's wife, Karina's dad's wife.
What is her name?
I can't remember what was underneath on there, but she had said that she wanted to make sure everybody knew that Karina only lived with James for a while. He didn't like raise her. She stayed with him for a little while.
Okay.
So I think earlier in there you said that Jerry and James had raised her.
Oh, maybe in the video part.
Yeah. So they wanted to make sure that was right.
Okay.
And then, did you bring up about the $7,000 yet?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let me see if I can get Jerry walk through this to get her on here, because I'm sure she's got stuff she wants to add in there.
Well, why don't you guys let me get through my notes first?
Okay.
And then I'll bring you guys on and you can walk her through it.
Okay.
Because I got quite a bit more to go yet.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. I'm trying to think of where I was. Oh, then they started talking about serving the search warrant at the sister's house. He said he didn't go to the sister's residence to serve the search warrant. And then the defense asked about Dottie, and he said that he didn't interview her. So this is once again where the defense is getting a few things confused with what he was supposed to testify today about and what he's supposed to testify for the defense about when he's recalled. He said when the city worker, when you interviewed the city worker and he saw Karina, what was she like? And the officer said she was under the influence. People said that the city worker saw Karina and said she was under the influence. That there were also people her age on bikes. And then the defense attorney said, when you were talking about Karina referencing Flint as uncle, well, isn't that a term of endearment? And the officer said he doesn't know if that's endearing or not. I know I put that down. And then the defense team asked him how many years of experience he had. And he said he had 29 years of experience. And then he said, okay, I have one more question for you. Is this a high crime area? And the officer said, no, at that time, I would call it an average crime area. So then the prosecution got back up and asked about the 9 transactions that were found and the ATM receipts. The fact that October 11th was the day that she went missing and there was a $7,000 withdrawal. And he said, were you able to tell if this was used for some other reason? And the officer said he had no idea. He asked Flint in the interview, and Flint stated he did not have cash in large sums, that everything was in the bank, and he never explained what he did with the $7,000. Then the prosecutor asked him, and he said, you stated that there was no blood on the furniture or the carpet. He says, and he asked him, in your investigations, sometimes do you see large amounts at a scene? And the officer said, yes. And he said, and in other scenes, you see no blood at all, depending on the cause of death, correct? And the officer said, that is correct. And the prosecutor said, when it comes to foaming at the mouth, what was his opinion of that? And he said he never gleaned it as a true fact. And the prosecutor said, actually, persons may die from other means and still foam at the mouth. Isn't that correct? And the officer said, yes, I have seen victims who have gunshot wounds foam at the mouth. And the prosecutor said, so it's true that foaming at the mouth doesn't just happen with overdoses. And the officer said, that's correct. Then he asked him about the Kylie Warner statement taking place on 10/25/2016. He was looking at a supplemental report, couldn't find this date. talked about the fact that the officer thought she was under the influence. The first statement was taken on 10/25/2016, and it was at her house. This is when he thought she was under the influence. The second statement was taken on 11/1, and this happened at the police station, and he said that she appeared alert, she was interactive, she was not high, she was more clear, and that he could tell the difference when talking to her. Then they talked about him receiving information from Marlena. And then they went back. Oh, I've already read this part. They had a home interview with this Kylie person. Said she was under the influence at the interview that was done at home, but she was fine at the one that was done at the police department. And that while she was at the police department, she did clearly talk about her father, Flint. And then I just put a note that this person will be recalled by the defense. The third witness was Marlena Smith, the mother of Karina. She said that she has 2 other children. She verified that Karina had turned 18 on September 26th, just a couple weeks before her disappearance. Said she wasn't a bad kid, that she was mommy's girl, did regular things, but wasn't bad. The 1 year before, she had recognized the drug use and that she was fighting to put her in rehab because of her age. She said that Karina had completed therapy 3 times a week, and that Karina had a in-home detention, and that the judge said that Karina needed to go to therapy. And so therapy was a stipulation by the judge. In October 2016, her mother said she was on a binge and that she was doing the H. She would get high and go to her mom's. Her mom would take care of her, and then she would leave and go get high and pop back up. Her mom said that she was always with either her grandma, or the boyfriend. She wasn't working, she was out of school, and she did not graduate. Andrea and Jerry, I will let you join. I just need to get through my notes first on the witnesses, and then I'll be happy to let you guys join and we can talk through it. Yes, this is just now going through to trial. She said that Karina liked to socialize with Isaiah, her boyfriend, and he was also in a drug clique. 2016, heard of Flint. She knew Flint visited her mother's house, which is Karina's grandmother's house, prior to Karina being 18. Didn't observe any drug use between Karina and Flint. There was drugs done at the grandmother's house. The mother said she admitted she battles alcohol, not all the way sober, takes pain pills, and battles sobriety every day. Okay, those were older messages. Good to know. 6 months prior, she was on and off drugs when she was around. And that she would go to her grandma's or her boyfriend's. She kept in contact with her mom all the time. There was never a day that went by that Karina did not contact her mother. And it was very unusual to have a couple days go by without talking to her. Exhibit 6 was a picture of Karina. It's the one that we've seen of her in the white shirt and the flowers in her hair. He asked her about hobbies and music, and she said that she was a very social person. She liked to be on social media. She was on the phone a lot. She stayed in contact with her older sister, Liberty, and that someone in the family always heard from her. She said she called it the night on October 13 and made formal report. The 11th was the day that she did not have any contact with Karina, and she could not get a hold of her, and there was no response. She called everyone that she could think of. No one had seen her or heard from her, and that she thought she had to wait 48 hours before she made a missing person report. No one saw her. Martha was the last person to have contact with her from the family. She had an issue when she found out that Karina went to Flint's house. There was an objection and a sidebar at this point. And then the prosecutor asked, based on personal knowledge, were you worried about her going to his house? And she said no, because it was the other people telling her things that made her worry about going to his house. But she can't say what those other people said because it would be considered hearsay.
Okay, that makes sense. You can't say what somebody else said unless that person is there to back up what you're saying.
Right, and that's why he changed the question to say based on personal knowledge. Were you worried about Karina going to his house? And she had to say no.
Right, because that's her own. Okay, that's personal knowledge. So that's something that person either did, said, or witnessed.
Right. She said she completed the missing person paperwork and law enforcement left. On October 13th, they came back, looked for her, and she was not there. So basically what her mom was saying is that law enforcement went and looked at Flint Farmer's house, and they came back to her and said that she was not at Flint Farmer's house. She said she tried to call and see if anyone had seen her. Martha was the only one that saw her on the 11th. She stated she has done everything she can to help law enforcement. She turned over her phone. She provided DNA, friends' names, where she could be, all that type of information.
And really, without her information, there would be no start, right? Because if you think she's the one that dropped her off, Okay. And if she
No,
hasn't
he
said
is not the one that dropped her off.
she's not,
No,
which Shannon is?
Shannon is.
Shannon is the one that dropped her off. Okay.
Right.
I keep getting those two confused. Okay. So Shannon dropped her off, but she knew this, right?
I don't think she knew any of this to begin with. Not until she talked to her mom. No.
Okay.
Because it goes on to say, then they went on to talk about the emotional impact it's had on her and that she's had a hard time with it and it's been bad. And that people have reported seeing her, meaning Karina, but it wasn't her. And people have told her stories about what happened. You know what it's like. These people call up and say, hey, I know what happened to your daughter, this and this and this, and
you know what? So like the only case that I have any history with, but John Kelly Profiler, a world-renowned profiler, says on his YouTube channel, and I've talked to him as well, that okay, so like in the Delphi case, the majority of the tips that I got as a YouTube creator and him as well, and he says this is the case with most of the cases that involves murder of a woman, or where there's a suspect involved. Most of the tips that come in was from ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends, or a female that had some sort of a relationship with a man. Those are the tips that primarily came in, was girls tipping in their exes or something like that, or their husbands sometimes. And it's like, I wonder how many people got tipped in over this case, and if so, who?
You've got to think about it. You've had, she OD'd at this hotel and she was put in this pond, and all kinds of stories that go beyond that were told to this family. And she said social media was bad too, because they were going through theories and everything. And a lot of the information that was put out wasn't true.
Well, the news even put that one thing out, but they went and interviewed an inmate, Renee Murphy, who's listed in the court documents as a witness for the defense, to basically say that there was a drug overdose. And I think that's where that witness is going to play a role here for the defense, is going to come in, and she's going to back up the defense's argument that there was a drug overdose. And but she said in her statement on TV that someone had ordered this hit, a drug dealer had paid someone to do this. So even if she says that it was a drug overdose, think about this. She said a drug dealer paid someone to do this, and all of a sudden Flint Farmer withdraws thousands of dollars out of his account shortly after the crime.
Right.
Think about that. So either way, you could paint that in any which way if you're the prosecution. The defense could struggle with that one.
Right. Then Marlena, her mom, said, that they did searches and sent out flyers, and that the other side of the family, meaning, sorry, I have the Belgians here a little bit, said that the other side of the family, meaning Jerry's side of the family, and them did the same thing. They were. This is when the prosecutor and the defense attorney got into it. They were going back and forth on relevance. They ended up having a sidebar. The prosecutor really went after the defense attorney. The objection was about how the mother feels about these things that are not true. And the defense kept saying that it was going to be hearsay. It was very, very confusing. So then they got done with their sidebar, and he just dropped that question. They then talked about in 2022 what happened after her remains were found. She said that it was confirmed to her that it was Karina, and that they had the remains, and that It was shocking, and there was people leaking information, and she knew things. Things got blurry. They had a service, and Karina was cremated. And then he asked her, do you realize there was lots of tests done on her? And she said yes. October 17, 2017, there was a phone call with Kylie Ann. Now, Kylie Ann reached out to Karina's mom. She didn't know her when she was contacted. She recorded the call, but hasn't listened to it. And Karina's mom provided an oral swab for a DNA test. Now, if you remember, Kylie is Flint Farmer's daughter. Okay. So this is important that Karina's mom recorded conversations with Flint Farmer's daughter. That's all they said in this part. Once Flint Farmer's daughter comes on to testify, they'll go into more detail, and that's kind of why this just drops off.
That's it? It just stops?
Yeah, because they can't really go any further than the fact of her saying, yes, she contacted me. Yes, I recorded the call.
Right. So each person plays a role in the timeline is all that's being established, really. And you know what I mean? Like each person's testimony establishes, like, from point A to point B, here's what they saw, and here's why this is so compelling against the suspect, is kind of what they're doing.
Right.
Is using people, because court's different, everybody. It's not, you don't just walk in there and tell a story.
Right.
It's, they have to ask questions, and you have to answer those questions, and you can't go, it can't be one of those things. And we all know those people that when they start one topic, they move on to the next and the next and the next, and they just keep going, but they don't let you do that. They stop you right there. It's answer that simple question. Sometimes it's yes or no and go past, and sometimes the witnesses can be like confrontational, we've seen in the past. So I'm wondering if anything like that's going to happen in this trial, and I would expect it.
I don't know. Marlena did say that her living conditions were between her, the grandmother, and the boyfriend. All of Karina's clothes were at the mom's. Yes, they fought just like any other mother and daughter would. She never knew that Karina stayed at Flint Farmer's or referenced him as uncle. Then they were talking about if she had any personal knowledge that Karina had a conflict with anyone regarding DV. You all know what that is. She said that she witnessed the boyfriend hitting her once. When they would argue, she would ask him to leave, or she would go get her if they were at his house. She said that Karina loved him, but they did have arguments, but that she did not think that it would get to a DV situation. She said that they would argue that he wasn't beating her. Then they asked, is there any inconsistencies with your statements? She said no. Have you been influenced in your testimony today? No. Karina stayed with others. Was she out of communication for an extended time with you when she did stay with these people? And she said no. And then asked why Kylie called when she didn't know her. And she said yeah, she called me, and I didn't know her, and I didn't know the reason why she was calling. So I recorded her. But that part of the conversation may not be recorded. Jerry, are you there?
How do I do it? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm still going through the testimony part of it.
Okay.
And I still have 2 witnesses to go.
Okay. Andrea, just come over and hook me up.
Okay. Do you want? I'm gonna take you and put you in the background and just finish this up.
Okay.
As quickly as I can, and then
that's fine.
Then we'll chat.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm out.
How do I?
All right. So then the defense comes up and gives the sympathies to her for losing her child. Asks her, did she have a severe drug problem? She said yes. The fact that she just turned 18 and liked heroin, she said yes. In-home detention. So he said she went through juvenile court, and the mother said yes. But at this time, when this happened, she was off probation. She went to rehab, was on an ankle monitor, but not during this time. He asked her about the binging, and she said she was using all the time. She was not herself. She was depressed. She had anxiety. She was suicidal. And the drugs made it worse. He then talked to her about if she was concerned about overdoses, mentioned the hotshot, and Marlena said yes, drugs. She was concerned about drugs that could kill you. It came out that after Karina went missing, her boyfriend died in a car accident. They believe had drug issues, that Karina's grandmother has drug issues, and the mother verified all of this. And then the prosecutor asked her in 2016 if she had any drug issues, and she said no. But she did have issues with alcohol.
Everybody has an issue with something. You know, mine is chocolate syrup. Like Hershey's chocolate syrup, like I just drink it out of the bottle.
Coke Zero.
and Coke. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I like that too. Yeah.
That kind of, I'll be honest, that kind of threw me when she said no, that she did not have any, that she didn't do any drugs, because that's one of the things that have been going around for years, that yes, she did do drugs. And the way the prosecutor looked at her when she answered like that, he had a kind of like a confused look on his face, like almost like he expected her to say yes, but she said no.
Wow. Or maybe that was just his. Maybe
Or
you know what?
Not the prosecutor, the defense.
I start thinking about things like that. You know what I mean? After watching the other trial, I start thinking like, did he really think that?
Yeah.
Or did he put that act on and look that way to make people think certain ways? You know what I mean? To influence a juror.
Right.
You know, because you can influence people with your body language too.
You
so
can.
the way you say things, the way you respond to people, like, you know, they're going to be like naturally taken back, you know, at first. If someone's like, you know, everyone else would too. They would look back and be like, oh man, shit. And they would not know, you know,
yep,
that's happening.
Yeah. Well, then the defense attorneys just verified that once again, Flint Farmer's relationship with Karina was through her grandmother, meaning her mother's mother, and that she stayed a lot with her grandmother, and she did verify that. Then he threw out these dates. October 13th is when you filed the missing person report, and she said yes. October 11th is when Karina went to Flint Farmers from Martha's, and then you started calling everyone to find her. And did you know that at Martha? Oh, this is where she gets into the fact that the night before, so the 10th of October, she knew that Karina was at the grandmother's. But she did not know where Karina was on the 11th until the grandmother told Karina's mother that she had been there and that she was going to Flint Farmer's house. But the key point was that she did not know where Karina was on the 11th. The prosecutor came back up and asked about Karina's drug use. And her mom said that she used Xanax, fentanyl, and H. Then I asked her about the boyfriend in the something about the boyfriend in the accident. I think if it was drug related, and her mom said she doesn't recall that. The defense then got up and asked her how Karina used the Xanax, if she shot it up or whatever, and she said she didn't know. And then he asked her about when it comes to the fentanyl, it's very serious, correct? And she said yes. There was a sidebar, and then that testimony ended. Fourth witness was Cameron Cunningham, another police detective. On 10/13, he visited the residence that she was last possibly seen, spoke to Flint Farmer and asked where she was. There was no results. He said this concluded as part of the investigation. But in 2022, he went to Miami County because in 2019, he moved from patrolman to detective. And when they got the information regarding Karina's remains, he was a detective at that time, so he did go to Miami County. And
with this witness?
Went to the trailer park and found her remains.
The trailer park?
Mm-hmm.
I need to find out where that's at.
I agree. He assisted investigators taking information and looking into Wheeler's I can't read that my writing. Something about looking into Wheeler's time there.
Don't know what it is?
Now, Mr. Wheeler admitted burying Karina and took them out there. They went to the trailer park, drove to the site, and he helped remove her remains from the site. The defense had no questions for this witness. So the fifth witness was Shannon Young. She said on October 11, 2016, she was working till about 7:30 p.m. She had her daughter picked her up, and she had her daughter and her granddaughter in the car. She stopped by Martha's, who is Karina's grandmother. There was an argument between Karina and her boyfriend. Karina asked for a ride and wanted to go to the library. Apparently Karina was looking for her boyfriend. So the first place that Shannon took her was the library. She couldn't find him. Then she took her to the boyfriend's house. Couldn't find him there. They drove where the mother was staying. The boyfriend wasn't in any of these places, so she kept coming back to the car. And then took her to Flint Farmers. She said she was on Washington in the alley and pulled up by the garage. She described the house as blue and an apartment, not a house. She said Karina got out, asked her to wait, left the vehicle, was gone for about 15 minutes and came back and gave her the okay sign to go ahead and leave. They showed her a picture of the garage by the alley. And she said that after getting the thumbs up, she left. She said Karina stayed at Flint Farmers. She said that they asked her what her Karina's demeanor was. She said that Karina was intoxicated, drunk at this time. Defense came up, wanted to know what time they arrived at Martha's. She said about 8 p.m. How did she know Karina? She said through her grandmother, Martha. She said when she picked her up, Karina, she was drunk, not being able to walk, insisted on going to Uncle Flint's house. Daughter and granddaughter were in the car. She was crying off and on, didn't recall why. She became more sober as time went by. I remember her saying this specifically. When she first picked her up, she acted very drunk, had issues walking, kept leaning over on the granddaughter in the back of the seat, and they kept telling her to sit up. But then, and she was happy, drunk happy. Kept saying that she was going to meet her boyfriend at Uncle Flint's. She was yelling out the window at somebody on a bicycle, stating, "That's my bicycle." And the lady, Shannon, says, "Is it really your bike, Karina?" And she said no. She said she was just being drunk happy, I think. I think we've all gone through that. Shannon said she didn't cry until they went over by her mother's house. They asked her if she had any saliva by her mouth, and the answer was no. She said they asked her about the time that she dropped her off, and she said it was dusk, so probably about 9 to 9:30 p.m. Shannon said she exited the car, went around the garage, and then came back after some time. Said okay to go and gave her a thumbs up. And Shannon said that she wasn't distressed about being there and that she had no hesitation dropping her off there. The last witness of the day was another officer. I think his name was Officer Martina. I'm not really sure. They were kind of, when they said his name, it was kind of mumbled and I couldn't hear it for sure. So he's been with Kokomo for 31 years. His current position is Major of Operations. At this time, he was right below the Assistant Chief. He was a captain of the patrol and standard unit back then. Or before that, 2016, he was a detective. He did a few interviews, but his major thing was mapping cell phones. Now you got to remember, everybody, this is 2016, okay? This is not like today's mapping of cell phones. It's more complicated. Talked about the towers and how the towers have a 360-degree circle around the tower. There's 3 sectors. Each sector is 120 degrees. He said you would plot the tower and determine the geographical location of where the cell phone was in the city. He says you're always, with a cell phone, you're always connected to the tower. The best data they received is when you would make or receive a call. There's different methods of getting this data. One is by hand-drafted mapping. There was a program called DART that they used. And then later on, there was a program called ZDEX. And this is the record dump. This is what made it easier. You were able to get the records and dump it right into the program. And it maps everything out for law enforcement. You had to get a search warrant to the provider, the cell phone provider. So in order to do that, you had to have a probable cause, go to a judge. The judge gives you a search warrant, and you could get those results, those documents, either 2 weeks or 2 months later. The provider emails the records. With that new system, all they had to do is drag and drop it into the program and process it in less than a minute. Went over training for this. He said he could actually train all of us how to do it in about 5 minutes. It was that easy. He did say there's not an exact location. It's very rare giving a exact location because it gives what side of the tower it's on, and then they can compare it to the address. So they're looking at a map of the town. He said there was 2 records that they got. One was from AT&T and one was from T-Mobile. And they're hitting different towers because each carrier has their own towers. Okay.
Okay.
So Exhibit 9 shows a map, and it's consistent with what he's looking at. He's got Flint Farmer's records and the map of his records. He's got Karina's, and he's got a map of her tower and her usage. He says that there's different colors. There's the red area, and there's a yellow area on the map. And there's several pages to this because I could see what it looked like as the jurors were flipping through it. We didn't actually get to see this information though.
We will though in the end, I'd say.
Okay. Okay, so he says Karina's phone on 10/11, the last activity, and her area is the red area. Flint Farmers is the yellow area. He says on the multiple pages, there's 3 pages. There's a picture of the area. Then page 2 is zoomed in a little bit. And then page 3 is zoomed in even more. He said when you looked at the data from Flint Farmer's phone and Karina's, there was an overlap. And that was the area that was in orange. Okay. He said Karina's was red and it extended up on the map. Flint Farmer's was orange and it's extended down. And that's because the towers were at different locations. Okay.
Okay. So it has nothing to do with anything but that.
Right. He says, but when you put the address in of Flint Farmers, it's in the center of that overlapped area. Meaning
that's where it hit.
Their phones were together or close to being together at some point.
That's where it hit. That's where it peaked. Yeah, they were definitely right there together.
Yep. So they were in the same general area.
Well, we do know this because they were both seen at that gas station.
Right.
And at that house. Apparently, you know what I mean? So that shows that he was at the gas station there, seen with her or seen near her. And also their phones near each other at his house. So he lied.
And then he just asked him, what do you use this information for? And he said, if a suspect is lying, can you use this info to call them out on it? Rebut their denial. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I can use this information. And then it was the defense's turn. Wanted to know, he said, so what you're looking at is where the phone is, not the people. He's trying to make a point that it's not accurate. It's where the phone is. Didn't really go into any more detail, but he could have. Wanted to know what the radius is. Now, this is where things got really confusing. Because this detective said it was from Kokomo Speedway to Jackson Park, which is a very large area. I think what the defense meant to ask was about the orange area, where the phones were, it seemed like where they were together.
Right.
But the prosecution never corrected them on that. So it made it sound to the jury that this area where they were together was all of Kokomo, pretty much.
See, that is why. Did they let the jury ask questions?
They're supposed to. Now, the judge, not after one witness, the judge never asked if the jury had any questions.
They didn't?
No. But he did
why.
He did tell them that if they had a question, they were to raise their hand and write it down before they started. But in Delphi, they actually asked him after every witness, does the jury have any questions? He doesn't. He just moves right on. Nobody has their hand up. He moves right on.
If nobody has their hand up, did he say you have to raise your hand?
Yes.
Oh, so he did give them an opportunity or an option that they could ask a question?
Yeah, at the very beginning when he was going through the jury instructions, he told them if you are allowed to ask questions. If you have a question, raise your hand. Before the witness gets off the stand, raise your hand and you can write it down and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Then they went over Exhibit C again, which is records from AT&T, which is Flint Farmer's carrier. I did catch that. He asked him about this UTO, Universal Time Coordinator. So what he said is this is the time basis for the world. Time zones are based off of that.
I wonder what the world time is.
I don't know. So AT&T uses this UTC time. Depends on the time of the year, but back in October, it was 4 hours ahead of the local time. And that's where they left it.
Now so that's where they left it. So that's where we're at today with the time, the world time.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that have? So I don't understand how that has anything to do with.
Because when they get these data dumps, it's all in this UTC time, and then they have to turn around and they have to calculate. They have to know.
And translate that over to what that actually means in your time zone. Okay,
Right.
And it'd be different in somebody else's. I get you.
Right.
So they have to break it down scientifically and mathematically, everything to find out why, for example, if a phone call rang, they want to know why the phone rang, why it made a noise, what made it make a noise, how does that noise know to make a noise? They break it all down into like every little tiny piece of everything, every little piece. And that's what the experts are for. So no experts so far, except for the phone people, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Now, tomorrow, I heard the two witnesses, the Wheelers that we were talking about, the one that said that he helped bury Karina's body. Him and his wife are supposed to be testifying tomorrow. I don't know who else is testifying, though, because we don't have a list for the prosecution.
Okay. Is Jerry called to testify?
No.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to bring her on.
Okay, are you ready? Here she is.
Hello, Jerry.
I'm going to pull myself out while you guys chat, okay?
Okay.
Hello.
So what did you think of today?
I'm a nervous wreck. I haven't had time to decompose or decompress or whatever you want to call it.
I was going to say, you're not decomposing. I'm not letting
you. I really am, girl. You just don't know.
I'm not going to let you decompose. Sorry. Decompress, yes. Not decompose. Yeah. What was your thoughts before going into court today?
Not again.
Not again.
But then.
Yeah.
Finally.
Not again, but finally, yeah.
Mixed emotions.
I'm sure.
I'm at home now. I can cry. Nobody can see me.
So what did you think about the testimony today?
Some of it I won't comment. Some of it I won't comment on.
Right.
But I thought it was odd that the cop couldn't remember half the mess that he had even stated to me 10,000 times.
Right.
And I don't know. I think they could have pushed a little bit harder on a lot of things. Ask me another question.
I had heard from the family, why didn't they mention this? Why didn't they mention that? What were some of the things that you thought should have been mentioned that they didn't mention? Is there anything that you can think of now versus back then?
There's a lot, but I really can't comment on it right now.
Okay.
I mean, they're trying to make her out a junkie, and she was not. Karina was not a junkie.
But they you're right. They sure made her sound like it today.
And she told me one time, sitting in my car, I tried it once, Mama, and I won't do it again. She said, I didn't like the way it made me feel. She said, I'll smoke weed, but I won't do it again. And she promised. Of course, you never know. You never know, but she was no junkie. There's no way. There's no way. And she had an attitude. The bicycle deal come up, like she hollered out the window.
Yeah.
That's my bike. That was Karina. When that was stated in court, me and her sister looked at each other and we giggled because that was Karina. That was her nature. She was a clown.
Yeah.
You know? And she could walk into a room that was just so blah. And the whole room, she'd get the whole room lit up. She'd get the whole room laughing. That was just her nature.
Right.
It's just hard sitting there. They always make the victim out the bad person anyway. You know, and there's a lot more bad stuff to come out. But Karena McClerkin was not a junkie. She was not.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I don't know if you were here in the beginning, but I said I hate this part of the trial experience because they can shame and do all this to the victim, but God forbid you say anything bad about the accused person that did this.
Right. And I knew she had took some tabs. She told me one time when I went to pick her up, she had took a tab. Can't say it on YouTube. Anyway. But I told her, I said, I won't pick you up anymore, Karina, if you're like this. And she said, okay, Mama. And she was normal. I mean, she didn't act all screwed up.
Yeah.
You know? And said she smoked a joint and did that. And then that was it. I mean, she wasn't all messed up. You know, she was functional. She was doable. She was laughing. And she was normal almost. You know, I wouldn't have known it but I seen her. She did slur her words a little bit, you know. And
yeah.
I asked her about it, and I told her, I said, I won't pick you up anymore if you're going to come out like this. I said, I won't do it. I said, I won't have it.
Right.
But she was not a junkie. She took pills. There's all, you know. I knew she took pills. You know, but
I'm sure she drank alcohol too, like any other.
I'd never seen it. I had never seen her drink anything. I'm not gonna lie. I've never seen her take a pill. I've never seen her drink. I've never seen her shoot up. I've never seen her snort. I've never seen her do any drugs. Never.
Yeah.
Never. And to clarify, when she talks about a grandma, I'm grandma. I am Mama. The other.
You are Mama. Okay.
Yes, the other one is Grandma. That's where our names were. She was Grandma and I was Mama. And I never, ever helped her partake in anything. I would never. I would never.
I know.
Yeah.
Evil, to answer your question, Flint Farmer is the only one who is being charged. The other individual, like I said, that's going to be testifying tomorrow that says that he helped bury her was given immunity in order to testify against Flint.
And to help his wife get out of charges.
Yeah, and to help his wife get out of charges.
Ain't that a bitch? Ain't that a bitch?
Yeah.
You can dispose of a body. Let me shut up.
But I did say this, and I don't know if I said this to you earlier or somebody else before I left the courtroom.
Maybe that's the only way. Maybe that's the only way they can find her. You know?
Well, it's the only way they could find her. Plus, that charge is so minimal, you're not going to get a lot of time from it. So why spend the money to try to charge them for it and instead get the answers that the family needs as to where she is?
Yeah. but you still got it in the back of your mind that they did it. You know,
It is always in the back of your mind. Absolutely.
And they're walking around.
You're right,
having a
Bossy.
normal life.
Karina's life mattered.
Yeah, and they're walking around like Flint did for 5.5 years, having a normal life, working at a beauty college.
Yeah.
My granddaughter went in there and he seen her and he noticed her, and she reminds you of Karina when she has her hair up in a bun, but they really don't look a lot alike. And he watched my granddaughter the whole time she was in there, and just like he spoke.
I didn't see that. I saw him looking. I mean, because in the afternoon I could see him playing his day. I had a clear shot to him, and I saw him looking down all the time or talking to that second attorney a lot.
This is when he worked at the beauty college. She went in the beauty college.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was working at the beauty college doing young girls' hair, women's hair, you know, and she walked in to get her hair done, and he recognized her. Where from, I don't know, because my granddaughter did never associate. And because of Karina, it reminds you of Karina. Just like when I walked out of the courtroom, he looked at me and said, "How you doing, Jerry?" And I've never spoke to that man in my life. Never.
Sheila, they did find her body. Do you know a Skylo Gray?
Who, me?
She said he was gonna cut my hair.
No, not unless that was the name that he used.
Okay. So, what did you think of the fact that he's stating he never went into his house?
It's a lie. That picture that you're flashing on your screen, I wrote it on your little page there. It's got the blue house, and she's got the black shirt on, and her hair is up. That's at Flint Farmer's house. That picture was taken at Flint Farmer's on her phone.
There you go.
It's a lie, because when we were searching for her, things were said to me and my son when we were searching from the neighbors, that they heard noises, and just like it's in the paperwork that anybody can pull up and read, they heard noises coming from a Flint's apartment. And well, tomorrow they're going to say it, but if you want to pull it up and read it, you can still pull it up and read it. So I'm not going to state it, but everything's coming true, from the pizza being ordered.
Yeah.
Everything's coming true, what me and my son heard and what was told to the police. They taped Marlena. They're supposed to play a tape of Marlena talking to another witness. And
to his daughter.
I didn't say it, you did.
I said it.
Yeah, and she's a good girl. The girl is decent. She's cleaned herself up. She's got a beautiful family. She's nice. She's polite. She's a lovely girl. Lovely girl. And best personality. And they're going to tear that girl up. And I feel so sorry for her. I feel so sorry for her. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't understand why you got to attack somebody from their past when they have got turned completely around. And Karina was trying to turn it around. She told her dad she wanted to go to rehab.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You're good.
You're an ass.
But
I don't know how you did that, woman, but heck.
What else can you think of about today? Anything that was shocking that you didn't know? Yeah.
No, I've known it all along. We was told that everything that's been said has been told by the police to me and my kid, her father.
Yeah.
Everything that's been said. There's another cop that's going to testify. I'm going to see what he says. And then, you know, I don't know. Say something else.
Well, I don't know what really to, you know, I know it was hard on you guys today, and
I got to maintain in court because my son doesn't want me to cry, and I got to sit there and hold everything inside, and it is so hard, but I'm staying strong for my kid.
right.
It's the only reason I have pursued this so hard was for my son, so he could have peace of mind. And he wants to move on, but you'll never get over anything like this. And he's not either. He thinks you can just move on, but you can't. It's still there.
Yeah.
You know, I can't even drive down. They got daggone streets here in Kokomo. I can't drive down Ohio Street. There's a woods where we searched, the cemetery, out by Continental Steel, anywhere from north to south, east to west, where we searched for that child. And we drove right past the cemetery that she was in, and we did not know it.
Yeah.
We went to the wrong cemetery. There was a psychic to come on. I was on Yahoo at the time. They said I had to pay to get on there. I said, heck with this shit, and I got off of it. And it's on my other account. A psychic sent us a picture, and there was a trailer park, and there was a woods, and we went to the wrong daggone trailer park.
Yeah.
And there's a cemetery right across the street from it. Why didn't you take over and put her in the cemetery so somebody could find her? You know what I'm saying? You didn't have to dig a hole and put her in and hide her. Yeah, he could have took her down the alley and laid her down in the alley and let somebody find her.
Scooter, don't tell my mod to shut up.
Huh?
Or you will get banned as fast as you can blink.
Who?
This Scooter Bros. Well, we need rest for tomorrow because it's going to be another day.
It's going to be a long day tomorrow. My son can't come. He has an emergency, so he can't come.
Yeah. I know it's coming. I just don't know when. It's going to be some tough times for the family, and I just want you guys to know I'm sitting there with you, and
I don't mean to ignore you. I really don't. I'll just go off in my own little space, and it's just like, hey.
What's Karina's favorite color?
Purple.
Purple. You know that just it goes because Karina's favorite color is purple. One of the Delphi girls' favorite colors was purple. Tabitha Shuck Rain's color was purple. Purple was very common.
Yeah, it was my sister's favorite color too. I couldn't stand it. Everything was purple in the room.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rain. Absolutely. Absolutely. And everybody's saying stay strong. They're praying for you and your family.
Pray for my son. Don't worry about me. Pray for my kid.
They're praying for all of you.
My kid and her brothers and sisters need their prayers.
Yep.
I'll get through it one way or the other. Just pray for them.
So here's what I wanted to ask you yesterday. I heard someone say Karina was the heart of the family. And then somebody said, no, Karina was the glue of the family.
She kept everybody together. I mean, like I said, she was a jokester. I mean, her and her sister used to just get in the room. If you put them two together today in a room, they would have you cracking up in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she was just a kid. She had just turned 18. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, she was 18.
Yeah.
And you know she was underage when something was going on over there at Flint's.
Well, now that we know that one picture was taken of her at Flint's, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But like I said, she could make any of the kids laugh. They loved to pick on the youngest one, Boo Boo. Her and Atia used to just pick on her all the time. And she was just a joyful person. I once said that she had an old soul, and she did. Karina was with me one time. I'm going to say this right quick. We're down to Treasure Mart, and some girl was working in there, and she had on short shorts. She was taking us to show us where this thing was that we was looking for. She said, "Ma'am, don't they have a dress code in here?" I said, "Evidently not," you know.
Yeah.
And because Karina was modest. If you look in her pictures, she didn't show off anything. I mean, I'd never seen her. And even in her pictures in her profile page, she doesn't show off. She doesn't, put herself out there like that.
Right.
And she was a good kid. I don't know. She took the wrong route. Got shoved out into it.
Made bad choices like everybody else does.
She got shoved out into it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
She didn't have too much of a choice. But she was a good kid. I mean, yeah, she did some little stupid shit every once in a while. All kids do. I mean,
oh, yeah.
All kids do stupid stuff. But she was a good kid. And I walked up today. There's a girl that's coming up there. And when I first seen her yesterday, I about lost it because I seen her at the courthouse steps. And it was Karina. It was her. She got closer, and I seen it wasn't. I seen her today. She knew Karina real well. She knows my other granddaughter, her sister. And seen her today, and as I was walking to speak to my son, she was sitting down, and I seen her back of her. And it was Karina sitting there. It was Karina. Yeah. And she turned around, and she had on the glasses. I thought, oh, my God. I started telling her, girl, if you show up here tomorrow, take your hair down, please. Because you're about to get ready to give me a heart attack. Because it was Karina sitting there. I just want to be over.
Scooter, I would say ask Flint. Right now, I don't have the answer to your question. I'll let you know if they tell us in court what their theory is on why he did this.
Because he's a stupid ass. I got to get me a cigarette. Hang on.
But that's something I guess that we're still trying. Oops.
Did you love the interview that he gave? They showed his interview today with the police.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
He contradicted himself in that little note too. Webster was good at twisting stuff and getting to try to get you to say something. He was good because he tried it with me.
Yeah.
And I said, I didn't say that. I said, you can go out there and turn that little tape back on and play it back. I didn't say nothing of the kind. But Flint fell for it. I forget what he said.
Well, Jerry, I think we should end this and rest. I need to get something to eat.
I just now ate.
Yeah, we're actually starting on time tomorrow, which is at 8:30. So
yeah.
It's going to
Well,
definitely be interesting.
I deeply appreciate you and Anthony. I really do. And I hope this helps.
Well, I hope it helps too. I hope that you find the answers that you need, and
some we don't want to hear.
Yeah, there's going to be things you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
But you got to take the bad with the good, and just remember how she was full of life, and we'll get through this.
Yeah.
Yes, Skyla, this stream will be available tomorrow and Friday night too.
I asked them today if they was going to go into Saturday. The lady said she didn't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because sometimes they do it on Saturdays.
Oh, interesting.
But they told the cop to go through his notes and you'd be back up there Monday. The one that kept forgetting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Wow, that would be cool if they would do Saturday.
Yeah, I guess. But then that means the jurors, they're not sequestering them.
No, they're not. But all right, my dear, I am going to sign off.
How do I get out of this mess?
I'll get you out of here.
Okay.
Yeah. But like you said, I'm gonna go get something to eat, and I will see you bright and early in the morning.
Yeah, you will.
Don't forget to bring a jacket or sweater and maybe a cushion, because those benches hurt.
I don't got no throw pillows, girl. I'd end up throwing a damn thing. I can't bring nothing like that in there.
Okay. Then we're gonna have sore butts. Sore butts, sore backs.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Okay, well, I will see you in the morning, you girl.
All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Love you much.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. Sorry this was so choppy at times. I will try to write things slower tomorrow to where I can read things. It's so hard to do when you're in a trial like this and you're trying to take down a lot of the information and get a lot of it so that it can bring it to you. So I will be back online tomorrow night to do the same thing. Go over the testimony. I am scheduled to be here till Friday. Like I said, that might get extended and pushed out. I'll know more on Friday what's going on. But just wanted to say that I do stand with Karina's family. We want justice. We don't know all the answers yet. We don't know why Flint Farmer did this. But we're definitely going to keep tuning in to find out if they tell us why. And what happens? Is the jury going to find him guilty? Is the prosecution going to be able to provide enough evidence to show that he is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? We're still looking into all that. The family believes with their whole heart that he is absolutely guilty. So, we'll find out here, I would say, in the next few days. But I wanted to come on and tell you what I heard in the courtroom today, because it's important that everybody knows. Like I said in the beginning, a lot of people forget about this case. They don't cover this case. And it's horrible. The family deserves support. Karina deserves some respect in the fact that her life was taken way too soon and by somebody else's hands, whether you think the hands were actually around the neck or in a way that they gave her something that was too much for her, and it still happened. She's still gone. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to go and get something to eat and get some rest and sleep hard tonight so that I can sit in the courtroom and take more notes and get back to all of you tomorrow and get the information out. Should be interesting with some of the testimony that we know is going to happen. And I'm sure with the testimony that we don't know is going to happen. So with that, I just have to say, remember, justice matters for each and every family and each and every victim. And if we can help give them a little bit of that justice by telling their stories, we're going to continue doing so. Have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.